Hello everyone, and welcome to this final video of the What's New in 1.7 in Connect. In this last video, we're talking about what's new in the output module. That includes the job presets and the output presets available when you're doing print. Obviously, this only applies to your print and PDF output, has no relation to web and email output. There's nothing new in that department. In order to show you all of these new output features, we'll be using the file print, which combines both the job and the output presets, and also gives us a nice little feature that is only available here. So I'm just going to go in file print, and I'm going to click on advanced, and I'm going to go into PostScript output. Now the first change inside of the output is when we go under the directory output, so where we want these files to be saved. So this is more related to PDFs, but it's also if you have any job that you want to print the output of, and then you handle that output differently, like yourself sending these files to an external system or to a printer or whatever. So I want to output, and I want these files to be named in a certain way. Previously, what I needed to do was to open the documentation, search for variables available in the output, if you even remembered what the title of the page was, and read all of the details on there, and then copy, paste, and modify what you wanted. Now we have a new option called Job Output Mask Dialog. So when I open this, at the bottom is what you have available when you're actually looking at the output presets. So if I click on Add here, I have information that I can add directly. So I can add the date and time, and I can add the file number, and that's done automatically. So I don't need to remember all the formats. It's all done for you. Now the top of this dialog is only available when you do the file print, and not when you're doing the job and output separately. But these options will kind of serve as a shortcut for the rest of the wizard, as well as give you more options for the output mask. So let me change the separation here from none to job or document set. And that will give me a couple more options, including the addition of metadata that I can add, let's say from the field. I can add gender, I can add the zip code, and I could add standard or, custom text. Now, once these tags are added, and this is the same as adding metadata tags in the job presets, if I right-click, I can select Insert Field in the job output mask. So now this zip code is added in the file name, which is pretty interesting. If you're doing page break grouping, so if you're separating your output using the number of pages inside of your document, so 1 to 5 pages and then 6 to largest, for instance, I could easily add this to the job output mask also. So that is now available. Now that we have this super complicated job output mask that we did in a couple of seconds, when I clicked OK, you might not have realized, but I'm going to point it out, it selected a couple of options down at the bottom because it's pre-selecting options later on in the wizard. Now it doesn't do everything, it's just the options relevant to the top. So the page break grouping, the separation, as well as the metadata. I'm going to check 2 more options that I actually want to take a look at, and we're going to click on Next and start looking at what these things do. First off, we have the imposition option. There's no new actual feature here. There's no change in how the imposition works inside the output. What is new is this preview. So if I pump up the volume here and show me some 9-up inside my output, I can immediately see what the first page, so the first front page of that output, will look like in terms of stacking. because when you do imposition, you're doing cut and stack normally, and this is what we want to show. Now I'll put it back to 4 up just so we have nice equal number, and I'll pump this up to 1,000, and then now I can see, by 250. So I have stacks of 250 pages that I can cut. If I select these crop marks just to show me, are they in the front, are they in the back, are they in both, what's the width of all of these, like basically anything that affects how this output is shown will be modified here. So I can change the offset and put 5mm, and then I have to click out, and that shows me that there's change. If I change the page order, it's also going to change that. If I were to lower the stack depth, I would see also that it will probably create multiple separate outputs. Each will have maximum of 50 in terms of depth. So that's, for example, if I'm manually cutting these things and I can't put more than 25 pages, I can use that. So the goal of this is you now have a very, very clear preview of what your output will look like, and everything that you do inside of this will affect the view of the output. The next thing that we really want is this new option called sorting. Now, I want to point out that this is not essentially it's not a new option. It's a way to change an existing thing that was happening. If I select ID here, the default sorting that happened automatically when you were doing documents or any sort of grouping in the past, you now have some control over. Now, the reason that we added this option more specifically is because some people were pre-sorting data in workflow or an external system or using whatever, and then when they got to grouping data inside of the metadata, it would modify the order. And doing this, for example, if I have this ID, assuming this is a customer ID, it would sort the whole job using the customer ID, which is something that some people would not want. So here, if I put it to unsorted, it means I'm not doing any sort, and I'm simply outputting the job in groups. What I suggest you do, because this may modify the way that the regular sorting works in the job presets, is to try out. Because if you're doing sorting and grouping, you want to make sure that you have the proper order, if that even matters to you, because it might not for some people. You want to select the ascending, the descending, and you want to select more sorting options and output some PDFs and see what that gives you. Because it really depends on the exact options. If you have one or more fields, if you have, basically, there's a lot of things involved in this. And I don't want to give you a solid, this is what happens, because it's by experience and by testing that you will arrive at the appropriate. Also, notice that this page break grouping that we were setting up in the job mask, this is set up here. The next thing I want to show you is this media output. Now, what has changed? I'm doing specifically PostScript multi-tray output. This is necessary for this option to work. Selecting a multi-tray configuration in terms of the printer definition file. So what I'm doing is I have the ability here to create new media tray selections directly from the interface. And the reason why I would want to do this is if I want to create a job or output preset that can work on multiple printers, or that can fall back from one tray to the other, depending on if one is full or if one is empty or whatever. The media selectors will go from top to bottom and will essentially try every single position. And the first one that fits will be the one that is used. So here what it's saying is that the imposition is locked because I'm doing imposition. If I wasn't, so let me actually just go and remove the imposition just so we see the full range of options right here. Okay, so I have the first media, the second media, the third media. It's going to try the tray position 1 first. And if that tray position is, 100 weight, or the type, or the color. So you want to set up these options so that the first right tray, the first correct tray, is used. So you have a lot of backups and a lot of options. These are saved in the output presets, by the way. So if you have more than one document using the same output presets, then that output preset can potentially output to multiple printers. It all works out pretty great. And now the very last of the options in the output presets would be barcodes and OMR. If you select the additional content or additional text and images inside of the first dialog, you now have text and images, barcodes, and OMR data. What is new is right here. There are new options inside of the barcodes available in the output presets. So I have Australia Post, Royal Mail 2D, as well as the USPS, IMB, and IMBP. So previously, those options were available in the designer, but are now available also in the output. So why would you possibly want something in the output only? Well, I'll give you a couple of examples. First of all, if you're using the retrieve items and you're doing either batching or commingling, and you want any sort of sequential or job grouping, then you do want to put your barcodes in the output, because if you put them in a document and then that document is sent to the database, it's unrelated to the rest of the job, especially if you're doing that, if you're doing batching. Now, this is basically useful if you're modifying the output after the content generation. So anything that's related to, doing management after content creation, after retrieve item, after sorting, filtering, any sort of output system. So that was it for the What's New in 1.7 in the Output module. I hope that you learned something new in this series, and I hope you're excited for the release of 1.7, which, if you're seeing this video, means is already done. So go ahead and update your software if you have not already had that notification. Take a look at the check for updates in the menus, and then you should have that available. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to go on learn.objectiflune.com, click on that forums or Q&A, and we will be glad to answer any of your questions, bring out more details on any of the features, or if there's anything that we missed, it will probably be in that section that I mentioned on the website on learn.objectiflune.com. So thank you for watching, and as always, see you in a few clicks.